Good day, fellow champions of inclusion. I'm A.A. Ron, and this is the Inclusive Dad Podcast, where we explore inclusion and make it practical. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to join me in exploring ways we can create a more inclusive world together. You are important, you matter, and you can make a difference. Today, my guest is Laura Bratton. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah. Why don't you just start us off by telling us a bit about yourself?
Yeah, so I'll make a very long story short, and then obviously we can take it from
Sure.
there. I was born and raised in the South, as you can tell by the accent. And when I was 9, I was diagnosed with a very rare retinal disease. Even now, 30 years later, there hasn't been a formal diagnosis or cause. So even though I received that diagnosis as a 9-year old, I didn't start losing a significant amount of vision until I was a teenager. So pretty much between in those 4 high school years between ninth grade and 12th grade, I went from legally blind to totally blind. So that's what started the process of adapting and adjusting to learning life, how to live life in a sighted world without sight.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks for sharing that part of it. So I have a daughter, Cecilia. She's 22, and part of her diagnosis is she had cataracts removed from both eyes when she was really young, and then subsequently trying to put the replacement lenses in. We had
Yes.
at least one surgery where we attempted that, and the lens had a tear in it when it got in there, so they took it out, and then we just eventually stopped trying because if you open the eye up multiple times, the more times you open it, the more chance for problems down
Yes.
the road. So we
Yeah.
just didn't we didn't want to keep trying. So she is legally blind, but she has glasses that um make it so she can see.
Okay.
So I have a little bit of that in from my
Yes.
daughter, but I didn't know. I mean, I didn't know anything about I mean, I have glasses, but I didn't know anything about like blindness
Right.
because when they said she's legally blind, and I thought that meant she was completely blind, and
It
then
is
it's like
complete. Yes, that's what most people assume.
that's different. It's
Completely different.
completely different. So yeah, so I know a little bit about some of that stuff, but yeah,
Yeah.
thanks for sharing that. Do you want to start off with what is your definition of inclusion?
Yeah. So my definition of inclusion obviously has evolved and changed through this just personal experience of becoming
Hmm.
blind, adjusting to blindness, and now living as a blind person.
Right.
So the way I define inclusion is respect. For us to respect ourselves and respect other people. And
Hmm.
practically, what I mean by that is rather than instantly judging someone, why are they doing it that way? Or why do they look that way? Or why are they talking that way? Rather than instantly judging that person, just taking a moment to have respect for that person that you might not know exactly what their needs are, what their diagnosis is, just to have respect for all people. And that's how we can all experience inclusion, just in that common sense of respect and well-being for all humans.
Yeah, I love that definition. I think you also said respect for yourselves. Do you want to talk a little bit about that piece of it, like how
Yes.
respecting yourself is part of inclusion?
Yeah, so that has been a big part of my journey is learning that I'm included, right? So, and what I mean by that, again, a practical example, in those high school years when I'm constantly losing sight and adjusting to life without sight, I questioned, am I worthy? Am I equal? Do I
Hmm.
matter? Do I have purpose? I, from my own perspective and mindset, did not believe that I was included or
Hmm.
that I was worthy. So it was that I had to learn to develop that self respect and be comfortable in my new normal and respect. Yes, I am as equal. I'm as worthy as someone with sight or without sight. The fact that I can't see as well doesn't have a factor on my inclusion. So developing that self-respect was a very difficult process because I was resistant to that, assuming that I wasn't included.
Yeah. What helped you through that process? Did you go to like therapy, or did your parents, or how did that work?
Yeah, great question. So, all the above. I
Okay.
started seeing a counselor, which was obviously helpful. What was equally was helpful was the support around me. So the
Mhm.
gift that as I was feeling not as included or that I wasn't as worthy, the people around me thankfully were teaching me you are. You can't see as well. You just need certain accommodations. So again, a practical real world example is I was overwhelmed with the future and how would I live and adapt and
Mhm.
adjust and, you know, feeling so much less than the rest of the world. My parents would remind me every day, all we have to do is focus on today, this
Yep.
moment.
Yep.
And them teaching me that literally every single day instilled in me, oh, so if they think I'm worthy, maybe I am.
Mhm.
Again, it was my brother who, at the time, I thought he was a very mean older brother. I thought he was just so mean. But in hindsight, it was the greatest gift he was giving me by just treating me as that normal little annoying sister.
Mhm.
And that was so healing and taught me so much because he didn't start pitting me. He didn't just do everything for me. So I had to do nothing and just sit around and feel sorry for myself. He taught me what inclusion meant by, again, just respecting me. Of course, making accommodations where I needed it, but just
Yep.
respecting my humanness. So all that support around me slowly gave me the strength to rebuild my self respect.
Yeah. That's great. Did faith play a part in it? Were you guys going to church at the time?
Yes. So
Okay.
being raised in the deep South, it's pretty big assumption. We were Christians, and specifically, I grew up in the Methodist church.
Okay.
So growing up, you go to Sunday in the morning, you go to
Yeah.
youth group at night, you're there on Wednesday.
Yep.
Church is just part of your social life, your social fabric. But going through this process for both myself and my family made faith real. Did not make faith was no longer just going to church, a building, something we do because it's culturally and socially what you do, but it made faith real and realizing God's presence and God's spirit is not based on what we have or what we don't have. So again, that's a huge part of that respect of learning and accepting and receiving that unconditional love and feeling
Mm.
that love and feeling that grace in the midst of incredible difficulty of adjusting to life without sight. So that was, yes, I'm glad you said that. That was a huge part of building that respect.
Yeah. Well, I grew up Baptist, so I was probably in church just as much as you were. So,
Maybe more, right?
yep. Yeah, for sure. Did for you, like losing your sight, did that challenge your faith at all? Was there any, did that, were you mad at God, or I don't know if you
It
want to talk about that stuff. Did you ever have any of
Yeah,
those kind
no,
of feelings?
it challenged my faith and it grew my faith.
Okay.
So for me, it wasn't initially the anger or the why me. It was God, I can't. This is too hard. I don't have the strength. I can't. That was literally my prayer. That was my whole being. That was my prayer. That was my mantra. I cried myself to sleep at night saying, God, I don't have the strength to do this.
Mhm.
Sorry. That was just my whole
Yep.
belief. And so, again, I worked through that just by the support of those around me, realizing, okay, I have the strength day by day by day, moment by moment by moment. And I have the strength when I trust that I'm still a beloved creation, that losing my sight doesn't instantly put me in this category of God's other or God's less than, or
Yeah.
there's no different. God's love is equally there. So from that perspective, it strengthened my faith incredibly
Yeah.
because I
Sure.
felt that presence, that unconditional love in adapting, in adjusting. So yes, faith and spirituality have been a huge part of
Yeah,
my healing.
that's great. How was grit a source of strength?
So grit was the source of strength, and this, I'm glad you asked that right after the faith, because having the faith and that spirituality, how I define grit and the way I understand it is having that grit in the present moment to believe in myself, to have that self respect. So originally, I thought grit was just pushing through, grin and bear, sweep it under the rug, don't show you
Mhm.
how many problems, figure it all out, be independent. But learning grit, and I love the work of Dr. Angela Duckworth, learning grit is having the long term goal, but every day having those short term goals that you can achieve. So, again, on a practical level, that grit looks like, okay, for this day, I will choose to have self compassion. For this hour, I will choose to know I'm worthy and matter, even though I don't have physical sight. So for me, the grit looks like trusting the spirituality, trusting my faith, trusting my support system, trusting myself day by day, and choosing that every day, even when it's really, really, really hard.
Yeah. Yeah, I like your definition. Thank you for explaining that. How was gratitude a source of strength for you?
So I would love to share a story of how the whole gratitude started, because I never woke
Yeah.
up one day and said, "Oh, blindness is great. I highly recommend this to the world." So
Yeah.
I never woke up being thankful for blindness. The way that the whole gratitude started was a spiritual mentor of mine said to me, "Laura, I want you to start writing down every day 3 events, people, situations from that day that you're grateful for. And I want you to make it very specific from that day. So you can't repeat, but come up with 3 things that you're grateful for that you appreciate from that day." Well, being from the South, what did I do? I nodded and smiled and said, "Thank you." In my head, I'm thinking, "Oh, wow, you were a terrible mentor. That is horrible advice. Why in the world would you tell someone who's anxious and depressed and grieving and losing their sight to be grateful? I have nothing to be grateful for." So, in my stubbornness, I determined I was going to prove her wrong. So I started writing down things I was grateful for. And the one day became 3 days. And the 3 days became a week. And the week became a month. And what I slowly realized over time was she was not teaching me be grateful for the blindness. She was teaching me be grateful for what helps you navigate through the
Hmm.
change.
Yeah.
So again, a very practical example of that, she was not teaching me wake up and be grateful to be blind. Rather, wake up and say, I'm grateful to have a guide dog that helps me navigate the world. So what I've cultivated is a life mindset, a life practice of being grateful for what helps me navigate through the world, not just walking around all day and saying I'm happy and thankful and positive, because that's
Yeah.
annoying.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. I mean, I've done that. I don't do that regularly, the gratitude thing. I mean, I have done that, and remember myself like um, having to like think of new things each day because I would often come be grateful for like the same things. So I would have to, challenge myself to come up with something that was different from the day before. Do
Yes.
you? So otherwise, it was like family,
Of
kids.
course,
Like
shelter.
it's like I need to like, hey, I can't keep picking the same 3 things. It's kind of always I need to think of other things. So yeah,
Waste of
it is a
time.
good practice though. And did you say you did that before bed, or what time of day did you do it?
So when she first asked me, I originally for the first few months did that before bed at the
Okay.
end of the day. Now it's not just 3 things at the end of the day. I just had the mindset throughout the day. I notice and
Okay.
become aware of things and just in the moment be grateful for that
Yeah.
perspective. And then
There you
just
go.
so it's more a part of my day that's woven into my lifestyle rather than just at the end of the day making myself sit down and write down
Right.
things I'm
Yep.
grateful for.
What's something that were grateful for today?
Just today, literally, I was so deeply grateful. We had a lot of sunshine after
Okay.
cloudy, rainy days. So just the
Yeah.
simplicity of just the bright, warm sunshine. Normally, in years past, I would just not even notice that. But today,
Yeah.
just stopping and saying, gosh, I'm just grateful for the warmth of the sun. And so it can be on other days when it's really hard and it's been a stressful, difficult, painful day. I'm just grateful the day's over. Or I'm grateful for that piece of chocolate that I really
Yeah.
loved. It's just, again, it's keeping it simple. It's becoming aware of what we're grateful for in our everyday mundane days.
Yeah. Yeah. That's great. So how did you begin to move forward?
So I moved forward as I received such strength from my family, from my friends, from the community, from my faith. That gave me the strength to move forward. And again, as I developed that self respect, I realized I can move forward with accommodations made and just adopting that mindset of giving myself the space to grieve what I don't have, what I no longer have the vision, and also move forward knowing I have gifts and purpose that matter in this world. So that is a process that is a daily choice, and that's the balance of the grit and gratitude, just daily choosing to move forward while daily acknowledging it's difficult to live in a world without sight that's fully sighted.
Well, what kind of accommodations do you use every day?
So I laugh, but it's so true. Well, when I say it right now, Siri and Alexa, I talk to all day long.
Yeah.
So I laugh, but it's so true. And they make my life so much easier and so accessible. I mean, I can use Siri and, for my computer, my phone,
Sure.
everything that you do on your phone, I can do with Siri and a screen reader software on
Yep.
computers and phones. And then Alexa, just I use so much for all the practical, just using smart plugs to know when my lights are on and off, or
Yep.
simple things like the Instant Pot, so Siri and Alexa and just technology in general have made life so much more accessible and mainstream and just wonderful.
And you said you have a guide dog also?
Right now, I don't. I've had
Oh,
two
okay.
guide dogs. I had my first guide dog I got right before college, right before I started in between high school and college. And I had her for 11 years. And then my second guide dog, I had her for also about 11, 12 years. And then she died a year ago. And I haven't
Okay.
gotten a new dog since then.
Okay.
So basically, forever I have, but not the past few
Yeah.
months.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you use a cane to walk around with?
So I use it. Yeah, right now I either use a cane or sighted guide, just depending
Okay.
on the
Sure.
environment. I mean, like at home, I don't use anything just because I know the environment so well.
Yep.
So, but yes, obviously when I'm in an area I don't know well, cane or sighted guide.
Yeah. That's cool. Um, how do you define being courageous?
Great question. So that definitely, like, the definition of inclusion has evolved through my life experience. So I'm going to say first how I originally defined it and then how I define it now.
Sure.
So the way that I used to think of courage is being brave, again, like not showing the difficult emotions, not showing I'm grieving, never having a bad day, or not letting anyone see I'm having a bad day.
Yep.
How I define courage now is completely different. To me, having courage is being able to acknowledge the hard, difficult emotions and then choosing to move forward. So, again, a practical example is giving myself the space to grieve. It's really, really hard to live life without sight in a sighted world. And I choose to move forward with accommodations. I can move forward. So, to me, courage is the balance of acknowledging the difficulty, validating those emotions, and then choosing to move forward.
That's great. Have you found like other people that don't have sight to talk like a community? Have you been able to connect with other people?
Yes, so that is a great resource to have
Yeah.
those mentors and people that I can call on and ask advice for, how do I do this or how do you adapt here? Just that practical advice, but then just also that emotional support that I can call and just acknowledge they can completely understand from a literal example. Yes, this was a struggle or this, I understand why that made you frustrated. But then also someone to call and just celebrate the wins, right?
Mhm.
Like just celebrate, oh my gosh, can you believe, guess what I did? So someone both for the practical advice, but then also just for the emotional, mental support of those hard days and also to celebrate the wins.
Yeah. Who are like famous blind people? I'm thinking like Stevie Wonder. Like who are like I know people talk about like representation and different things now. Who are like, I mean, more current besides Stevie Wonder, who are more current um blind people or famous people? I'm trying to
Yeah,
think.
I don't have anyone that's like famous that I
Okay.
follow or that I directly am in contact with. It's just very
Yeah.
successful people who again
Sure.
are living life moving forward, not
Yeah.
just victim to blindness, but
Yeah.
moving forward in their career, in their life that can be that incredible mentor that I can just pick up the phone and call or
There you
text or
go.
whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you want to talk maybe a little about what you do? I see you do some speaking stuff. Do you want to talk about your speaking and what
Yeah. So
what
what I do
kind of-
now, and this is 100% because of my life experience, I speak and I've created an organization that's all about helping people navigate through change.
Okay.
So I speak to organizations that are navigating through change and need that direction. How do we move forward? So I work with organizations on the speaking level and then also individuals on the coaching level, the one on one. How do you
Great.
navigate through change? And a
Yeah.
lot of the people that I work with are experiencing the non death losses. So, what I mean by that is we often think of grief as a loved one, a friend, a person dying.
Mhm.
But there's so many types of grief that are non-death. It's a relational, it's a physical change, a physical
Yeah.
illness, is a job change. There's so many other losses that we experience. So that's typically who I work with, people that are
Mhm.
going through the grief process. And again, helping them to navigate, how do I move forward? And I constantly, what we work on is how do we use the resource of grit and gratitude as tools, as resources to empower us forward. So we're
Yeah.
not just overwhelmed by our circumstances and shut down by the
Mhm.
fear of the future or the overwhelming circumstances.
Yeah. So yeah, kind of ties in. What is your advice to others experiencing change?
My number one advice is first validate your feelings.
Mhm.
So when we're going through change, we often feel anxious, but try to convince ourselves we shouldn't be anxious or we fearful. I can't say that. Feel fearful, but then we don't acknowledge to ourselves or to others that we feel that way. So the first step that is incredibly healing is to validate it is what it is. Our feelings are there. If it's anger, if it's fear, if it's loneliness, sadness, anxiety, whatever the feeling is, acknowledge those feelings. And the next step is choose to do one step that moves us forward. So is it making that difficult phone call or sending that hard email or whatever it is, just doing that one step rather than trying to navigate through the change all at once.
Yeah, that's great. I think I saw. Did you do a TEDx talk?
I did so I did a TEDx talk that was all about, because obviously TEDx's are short so you can't talk
Yeah.
about everything. So the title was gratitude and adversity. So the whole TED talk was about how do we have and develop gratitude in the midst of diversity. And what I talked about is what I shared earlier, that gratitude is not just being grateful. Oh, I'm so grateful for this adversity.
Yeah.
Rather, it's I'm grateful for it helps us navigate through the adversity because that's a big change. And especially in the faith world, we assume gratitude is just being positive, happy all the time for everything, all situations. And that's not healthy. That doesn't help move
No.
us forward, but rather focusing on what does help us navigate through, what does help us navigate forward.
Yeah. Yeah. I've given two TEDx talks. One was like 11 years ago, both about inclusion. But yeah, the first one was quite powerful for me. It was the first time I had talked about some things with our my daughters and our experiences relating to her inclusion and lack thereof. So it was very, very moving. And then
Yes.
last year I did one at like 10 years after the first one on inclusion again. So yeah, they were both a lot of fun for me. So yeah.
Oh, wow. And it's deeply healing, right?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
It's
Yeah, it
it's
was.
incredible how
Yeah.
healing it is.
Yeah. Like I said, the first one was I talked about a lot of things that I'd never talked about out loud before. And I did that one in our hometown. So just right in the community that the stuff had
Perfect.
happened. So it was very, very powerful. And at the end, I had a call to action, like if you're whatever, stand up for inclusion, like repeated a bunch of times. And by the end, everybody was standing. So it was yeah, it was
Oh,
quite
that's
powerful. So
awesome.
yeah, but yeah, it was a lot of fun.
That's
A lot of
great.
fun. What do you like to do for
Congratulations.
fun?
Because talk about
Thank you.
courage. That takes a lot of courage for you to do
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. And I'm not a person that's I mean, I don't like standing up in front of people talking. So yeah, it was quite nerve wracking, but I think I did a great job ahead of time. We got to go in probably 3 or 4 times at least on Saturdays and run through like our speech, our
Good.
talk, and then they would give us tips and stuff. So it was a nice process, and they were very helpful. So it
That's
was
great.
fun.
That's
Yeah.
great.
So what do you like to do for fun?
So for fun, I love to be in nature.
Okay,
I love hiking. I love being at the beach. That is my favorite place.
there you go. Do you live by the beach?
Unfortunately, I don't. I live about
Okay.
4 hours from the beach. That's
Okay.
definitely the goal.
Yeah.
That is the goal to live at the beach. But right now I'm about 4 hours away, which thankfully that can is doable for a weekend and our,
Sure.
short trip. But yes, that is my goal. That's the plan. That's
Yeah.
what we're working towards.
There you go. Or hiking trails. Is there a way to figure out like which ones are more or easier to walk if you have vision problems, or you just do
Great,
normal ones, or
great question. So it's very difficult it just has to be exactly what you said. Just hiking trails, go and try.
okay,
Because again, yes, you can find on maps online, one person will say it's easy or, but it's not. So it
right,
just has to be trial and error of go and try it.
gotcha, sure,
And my fiance and I go all the time and try different trails. And the gift is, thankfully, he's very, very patient. So
there you go,
he's been hiking. We've both been hiking our whole lives, which makes it great
yeah,
because then we work together. We kind of know the lingo and our
yep,
pace, figured out our pace. And and that's another inclusion respect thing. If we start out on a trail or midway through the trail and realize, hey, this is just not accessible for me,
sure,
that's where I've had to come to that place where I want to push on, push on, push on, but
yep,
I've had to realize it just is what it is. It's not a weakness to say, I can't keep going, right? Or if he
yep,
realizes, hey, up ahead is just not safe.
yep,
I've had to get to that place of realizing that's not a weakness.
yeah,
That just that just is what it is. So that is a huge place of self-respect and just acknowledging I do what I can do.
yeah, that's great. What is one tip that you can share to help the listeners be more inclusive today? So there's something everybody can start doing today to be more inclusive.
I've said that I've used this word so many times,
That's
but
fine.
it can start with self respect. And the
Yep,
reason I say that is I found in my own experience and working with others, when we respect ourselves and when we're comfortable in our own skin, we naturally respect others.
Yeah.
And that sounds counterintuitive because it sounds like we should start including others. What I've found, again, through my own experience, is when we respect ourselves, including and inclusion becomes natural. And I can just a practical example. I witnessed that in my friends and family as they've gotten, obviously, I was going to say as they've gotten to know me, but of course they know me. Like as they've gotten to know me as someone who's blind, they just realize, oh, she's just another human, just another person, right? But they're so quick to take that same mindset to other people. So it's not like that they're not sure how to treat that other person, or they're not sure what their needs are, or they're not sure, why that person is doing that. But there's not judgment. It's quick inclusion because they have that self-respect. And so that's why I say just start with the self-respect.
Great. Where's the best place for everybody to connect with you?
The best place is my website. So laurabratton.com has all the resources for the book, the speaking, the coaching. It's all there.
All there. Awesome. Awesome. Are you ready for the last question?
Absolutely.
I'm holding up a can of Spam lunch meat. Do you like Spam lunch meat? Yes or no?
No.
No, that was pretty fast. So I live near Austin, Minnesota, where they make Spam and where the Spam Museum is located. So I've been asking all my guests just as a fun question to see what the
That is
reaction is.
awesome. That is a great question.
So
No,
yeah.
thank you.
So yeah, if you want to visit the Spam Museum, though, it's in southern Minnesota for reference.
Oh gosh, no, thank you.
Not that either? Wow, you're just not at all into it. That's cool. That's
No,
cool.
no thanks. No thanks. I'll go to the beach instead. Okay.
There you go. Yeah, I mean, I would pick the beach over that too.
Yeah,
Just
yeah.
I'm being
Not
serious.
not a
So,
hard decision, right?
no, for sure. Well, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Absolutely. Thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah. To those listening, thank you for allowing me to be part of your journey. It is truly an honor. Please join the podcast newsletter by clicking on the link in the episode description to keep up with the latest episodes. Together, we can make the world more inclusive. Until next time, stay empowered and be a champion for inclusion.